I'm about ready to start chapter 10. What I've written so far is about 1,250 words, more or less, and I haven't told, I haven't posted on Nano that I've written that many, though. Nano I've posted 9,500. I'm actually putting in more than I've written each day, and just to where it'll come out to where I actually am since I started beforehand. But once I get to where I'm actually at on word count, then it'll become consistent. That'll probably be about 2 days. There's one section in the middle, between 2 chapters that I wrote, that is an idea that I had a long time ago that I thought I might make it to a short story, but the more I thought about it, the less it actually could be fleshed out into a full short story. But it was an interesting idea for a mystery, so what I did was I incorporated it into a situation in my story. What I've got is the story is about them researching, trying to find a serial killer. So they're researching unsolved killings in newspapers, trying to find more of his possible victims, the killer's possible victims. And the character Katlia in my story stumbles across a story that she thinks might be involved. So she asks the detective, Lupa, what do you think about this story? Could this be our guy too? And just by hearing the story from the newspaper, he's able to realize that it's not their killer. He figures out who the killer is, and he solves that murder all in about 6 paragraphs. And I thought that was kind of an interesting thing, so I'm going to edit in to this video that section just so you can get an idea of the detective that I have and how he works, and hopefully it'll be interesting. So, but anyway, that's where I am in Nano, and enjoy the little segment. Talk to you later.
A pall of silence overcame the room as we studied our article selections. What about this one, I said, after several minutes of searching. 4 men were hiking in the Rockies. They became separated, and only 3 of the men made it back to camp that evening. The next morning, they searched for their friend, but couldn't find him. Authorities were called in, and they were able to use his cell phone signal to locate his body lying in a ravine, his head crushed in by a branch. Police determined it to be a murder, and the only suspects are his friends. But what if it wasn't one of the victim's friends? Could that have been our guy? I don't know, Schwartz said. It sounds to me as if it probably was one of his friends. Is there something about the case that sounds to you as if the murder was ritualistic? I don't know about ritualistic, but there is something a little unusual, I said. The victim managed to place a call to a stranger before he died. Police think he was phoning for help and misdialed. Did his friends have cell phones? Schwartz asked. I wouldn't go hiking in the mountains without one, I said. It would be invaluable in case you were lost or needed rescue for an injury. Then why wouldn't he have called his friends? Schwartz began pulling on his lip. He always did that when he was thinking through the solution of a crime. I became enthusiastic. Had I just uncovered the clue that would solve our serial killer case? Does the article say what number he dialed? Who he called? I shook my head. What were the victim's friends' names? Schwartz inquired excitedly. I skimmed the article. Vernon Height, Clayton Ascension, and Martin Stalwart. Are there interviews with the suspects? I nodded. Schwartz brought up the article and read it through several times. Did you notice that when they refer to each other, sometimes they call Vernon Vern, but Clayton is always called Clay and Martin is always called Martin, never Marty? No, I said suspiciously. I hadn't noticed that. Why would I? Why would any sane person? I noticed it, he said. I let it go without comment. Give me your phone, he insisted. He never wanted to buy his own cell phone plan for some reason, but he was never shy about using mine. This had been an issue for us in the past, but by now I'd grown used to it. I handed my phone across to him, and he examined the keys for a few moments. Suddenly he dialed a number and waited for the other end to pick up. After a few seconds he said, Hello? Is this the number that Fred Fallon dialed the day he died? What? No, I understand the police promised you they wouldn't release this number. Trust me, they didn't. I need you to do something for me, though. I have a story to tell. Please contact the officer in charge of the investigation. I'm sure he left his contact information with you. Yes. Call and inform him, please, that Lupa Schwartz just called to ask you to tell him that the reason Mr. Fallon called you was accidental. He had meant to use the text feature on his phone to send the name of his killer to somebody. Somehow, though, in his confusion, he had the phone in the wrong menu. He thought he was typing, but he was dialing. and your phone number spells out the name Martin, a 6 for the M, then a 2 for A, then 2 7s for R, etc. It won't be enough for a conviction, but maybe it will help them coerce a confession. Yes, thank you. Good evening. End of chapter. Chapter 8. Schwartz disconnected the call, grinned broadly, slapped his hands together, and declared, "Let's get ready to eat." "How did you do that?" I asked. "Didn't you hear the conversation?" he said. "Well, how did you know which name to dial?" He shrugged. Process of elimination. When I looked at the phone, I saw that it couldn't have been Vern or Vernon, because to make a V you dial 888, and that's a toll-free area code. It also couldn't have been Clay or Clayton, because the exchange would have been 555, and that's a reserved and unused exchange. That left Marty, or Martin, and since none of his friends called him Marty, I took a shot and got it right with Martin. "So you solved the case the police haven't been able to crack in less than 5 minutes?" "I suppose so. Without even leaving the house?" "There was no need to. Without ever meeting the suspects or seeing the crime scene?" "What's your point?" he asked, becoming suspicious. End of segment.